For the Cardone Corner, guys, I've got Samuel Arms with me, Cardone Digital, and I've got Tim Warren, Chartist extraordinaire, to join us this morning to talk about Bitcoin, finance, the markets, and anything related to that. Guys, how's everybody doing? Wanted to start with Sam. Sam, I was with you yesterday at a trade show down in Tampa. How did you find that? And did you see some really cool entrepreneurs making their way into the world of commerce?
Yeah, so we had this it's called RiseCon, and it was a pretty good trade show. And it was interesting because Gary, for you, Tim, was on a panel with I think about five or six other kind of business leaders, and he was kind of like the Bitcoin king, and it was fun to like listen to Gary talk about like being the main guy up there invested in Bitcoin. And some of these other people were like, that's interesting. I think two of the guys you had already kind of convinced Gary, but I think like the other three were like, "Hey, we should talk more after your pitch." So it's pretty cool when you're seeing people who are like high net worth and business owners start to be like, "Wait, what is Bitcoin? What should I know?" So I thought it was a good event. It was fascinating to kind of see them react.
Yeah, it is really interesting. If you noticed, I was very interested in like, I was the oldest guy there, I think, and then there was a bunch of, I'd say, mid 30-year-olds. Three of them had really cool businesses. I mean, cash generating businesses, couple of exits. Zero of them had a penny in Bitcoin. Dude, there's no adoption here yet. Okay. We live in this little ecosphere that we think everybody's in it. And three of those cats came up to me. This is what's changed. I'll be very interested to see what Tim's seeing, but three of them came up to me and said, "Hey, when can I have lunch? I need to understand what the hell you're talking about."
Mhm.
But they were all like, "Hey, I need to understand this. It's no longer this, ah, it's more like, hey, I'm missing something. I think I've learned how to explain the opportunity really well now. Like, I never use blockchain. I never use any of these technical terms,
Yeah.
but three big reaches. So I'll be meeting with them in the next, uh, week or so. But like, to me, it's really exciting. It's just really, I think the ETF's really helping us, that it's starting to do the marketing for us. People are starting to hear about it more and more. Tim, what are you seeing, dude? Are you seeing similar things? And in fact, Tim, this is the first time you're on the show.
Yeah.
Let's swing the camera over to you. Introduce yourself, what you do, how long you've been in this space, and then uh, I hear you're the chartist extraordinaire. So I'm looking forward to your input, man.
Yeah. Well, it's
That
great to
baseball.
be here. Great to be here with you, Gary and Sam. Yeah. So I got into Bitcoin for the first time. I was what we call one of the COVID Bitcoiners, meaning when all those COVID checks started coming from Uncle Sam, I said, you know what? It's time to get into Bitcoin. It's a great time to do it. So all of my checks went into Bitcoin. That was my entry. I wish I'd gotten in when I first heard about it back in 2013, where a crazy guy, and he's probably a very wealthy person right now, tried to convince me that Bitcoin is what Revelation was referring to when it talks about that one world currency at the end of time.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that at the moment, like he was a crazy guy. He was a weed farmer. So that tells you a lot about, who is, I'm like, I'm not going to go invest all my money based off of what a weed farmer is telling me to do. But in hindsight, I could have gotten into Bitcoin when it was in the, less than $1,000. But I got in around 11-ish thousand was my initial investment in Bitcoin. And then I've just grown in it. I mean, I was that guy, like, I'm humbled if people think I'm a chart extraordinaire. I've not been charting for crazy long, but what I would say is my journey from early 2021, getting into trading and reading the charts when I was terrible at it, to where I am now. I think I'm living proof. Anyone who wants to do anything, if you put your mind to it, if you study it, and you can't be lazy. You can't just expect something to come easily. You got to work. You got to fail. You got to get things right. You got to get things wrong. But anyone's capable of doing anything. And I think I'm living proof of that by the fact that I'm here on Gary Cardone's show doing TA when it is, 4 years ago, this was like rocket science to me. So that's a little bit about who I am and my
Well, hey,
history.
Tim, can I just correct you on one thing you said?
Yeah.
Because you're shaming yourself over getting into Bitcoin at 11,000. I think actually had you invested when it was 1,000, it would have cost you more because
Okay.
the money that you got at 11,000, your cost base is actually zero, dude.
Yeah.
The government gave you money. You then took that fiat trash, turned it into Bitcoin. You probably are the most successful Bitcoin miner I know.
That's a good way of putting it. Good way of putting it. I'm one of those people though. I don't know about everyone in your audience and Gary and Sam. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I'm in this thing for the long haul. I mean, everyone wants to talk about bull market top, and I'll talk about bull market top based off of charts, but I'm really trying to find a way because I have plans. I want to invest in different things. I don't own a house at the moment, but I want to buy a house. But I'm going to really try to find ways to hold on to as much Bitcoin as I can and not separate from a bit of it, but invest in other things, maybe borrowing against my Bitcoin holdings. I know, Gary, that's probably a conversation you and I should have later on. You probably know a lot more on that topic and could give me some great pointers. But I'm really trying. I'm going to do charts for people and tell you, but I really am the kind of person. I'm like, I want to hold my Bitcoin for the next 30, 40, 50 years, pass it on to my children, let them pass it on to their children. We're gonna do this right and borrow against it correctly and continue to build financial wealth for the Warren household is the plan.
Well, and
Cool.
Gary, before you even tell Tim not to buy a house, you know what I noticed? When we were on the panel yesterday and you were talking to some of those other investors, and then Tim just now, no one asked or no one cared what the price was. They just said, I'm in. There was
Yeah.
no, oh, I got my COVID check, and then, hey, now's the time to buy because it was like, no, I got free fiat. I'm going to buy. And everyone else was like, oh, I get the opportunity. No one's asking, well, how expensive is it right now? It doesn't matter. And I think that's the mindset. I think that's a really good mindset.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, Tim, listen, the first thing is you're not going to buy a house because I'm going to
Okay.
walk you off that ledge so
Okay.
fast it'll be scary. We're
You
going
have
to
to.
run through the math.
Yeah.
And Tim, if you want me to run you through the math on a chart, like on a live show, I will destroy any thesis you have on house ownership. Okay.
That's funny. I'll have to get my wife on the call too, because I'm the type of person I go back and forth on if I want to own a house or not. I mostly when I say I want to own a house, my wife wants to own a house, and they
There
do
you
say
go.
happy wife, happy life. So we got to find that balance. Maybe if you can help me convince her the smarter route is renting, then we can keep a happy wife and not buy a house.
Bring the wife. That will be a real, because you know what? You are a good man. You got good alpha because you just admitted to the world the truth. Women find home ownership more valuable than men do.
Yeah.
And there's something about, I think it's actually ego. I think they want to be able to tell their neighbors, hey, look, we own, but you
Mhm.
don't own. And it'll be so easier to explain to her, look, you don't own anything. You got to keep paying the government. So it's such an easy calculation. Why don't we get into the chart, man? What
Just
are
do
we
it.
seeing over the weekend? Are we seeing volume? Um, we'll leave it to you to kind of walk us through what you're seeing.
Awesome, awesome. Now, let me make sure you guys can see my chart right now.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit. We can start, we can go macro, we can go micro. What do you want to start with? You want to talk about maybe the next couple of days and weeks? Do you want to kind of go ahead and just start talking about the macro outlook of Bitcoin?
Why don't we talk about this past weekend in the
Okay.
last day or so, post ETF,
Yeah.
uh, that post halving, we're there. I am so glad the halving thing's over. I'm
Yeah.
starting to do less of these shows because you can't keep looking at these charts. Like I didn't invest in this for one day. So like I don't really
Right.
worry about the charts that much, but let's kind of look at what's been going on the last few days and what that may predict for the future.
Yeah, so this you're gonna see some ranges here on my chart. I'm in the camp right now. Things can change, but I think it's not going to be. I'm not going to be surprised if over the next couple of months, and I can explain historically why. But you guys see these boxes here. I have a reddish box that's a little bit larger, with more extremes. But then I have this yellow one. I'm not going to be surprised if 90% of the price action for Bitcoin through the rest of the spring and into the summer stays within this yellow box. I think there's an outside chance for a small pullback to 55,000. There's another small chance maybe 48 gets retouched. The reason why is because this is a former pretty strong resistance level back way in March of 2022, and then of course the rejection we had in January, right as we got the ETF approval. We haven't come back down to test it, and we don't have to. But a lot of times you do see former resistance levels get reused as support. And you guys can see here, when we broke through in February, we consolidated back at 50, but then never came back down. I tell my audience with Investing Bros, hey guys, I'm not predicting this. If I do see 48K, that's a dream come true for another buying opportunity. But
Yeah.
realistically, I think if you can see 55, that's amazing. And realistically, your best opportunities to get more Bitcoin is probably going to be here at 60K. And the reason why this is, again, the halving event, everyone was so excited about the halving event. It's so bullish. People have been talking about it now for years, not just months. Like, it's like we finished the halving back in 2020 and people are already talking about the 2024 halving, right? But if you look at the history of what happens before and after halvings, this is why I kind of have this chart right here. If you come back here to 2020, take a look at what price action did. And we were a little more inconsistent. Of course, COVID really threw things off. But, before the halving, we got up as high as $13,000, had a little bit of a pullback. There's actually 50%, so it's not little. But take a look at the price action. This is the weekly chart. So every one of these candles represents 7 days. We rally out of the COVID dip into the halving, and then this event that's supposed to be so bullish, it didn't send us off to new highs, even for that bull market. It actually, we didn't break that 13,900 all the way until November, months after the May 11th halving event. In reality, we traded sideways, had a little bit of an exciting July, August area, and then kind of corrected. This is a lot of sideways action for, May, June, July, August, September. And then we didn't really get excitement until October. So we're talking about multiple months of sideways, dare I say, boring Bitcoin price action. But that's not the only
Well,
one.
hey, Tim, just before you say boring though,
Yeah.
drill into that 12-week period. Your boring is 6,000 to 12,000.
Yeah, a bottom range. You're talking about, wait, you're talking about down here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
77, call it 8 grand all the way up to 12 G's, right? I mean, that's 50% volatility.
So the real excitement, of course, and this is where I don't count the COVID price dip in a lot of my analysis, because it was a black swan event. We were taken by surprise. Like, nobody, I mean, we can look back now with 2020 vision and say, man, we got that wrong, we got this wrong, got that wrong. But if we're honest, back in March of 2020, nobody knew what was happening. This shocked every market worldwide. But we quickly got back up to where, look at where we had been before COVID, right here around $10,000. We dip for COVID, come back up to it, and then we get in that same range. There's a part of me that would like to think if COVID had never happened, we probably would have just stayed in that little range right there all the way until, again, October, November, and then the Bitcoin bull market starts to really grab legs and take off. And then, so we'll go back and look at the past halvings before that as well. 2016 was a little different. This one, we got a little overextended early, but again, we rallied into the halving event. This is very similar to what we've done here recently. We did have a 20% pullback that quickly rebounded back up to about $600, traded sideways, had one very bad week here, dropped to 471, but then again, quickly bounced back up. And if I were to put this range like this, this is a pretty volatile range, but let's just put it like this. Look at how long it took before we broke back out of there. This would be December after July. Once again, multiple months before we could retop that bull market's high. And the same thing, the shortest one of them all was the 2012 halving, but same kind of thing. We have that halving event, or we have the rally before the halving. We then trade sideways. This one only took about 3 months to break that. I'm kind of sitting here hoping / wishing we see a repeat of 2012 and we get maybe some excitement closer to August of this year. But my point here is, when you look at the 3 halvings prior, everyone talks about the bullish fundamentals this brings to Bitcoin, and it is. Like, every single one of them proceeds to have an explosive bull market, and we will get it. But anyone thinking, man, I have to buy right this second because it'll take off tomorrow, well, historically, that's not how the price action has worked. That's why I kind of have this range right here until about August. August is where I say either we make a break or maybe we still trade sideways. But this is a great time. I tell everyone, you can look at cups half empty or half full. You can be disappointed that Bitcoin's not taking off, or you can see this as an amazing opportunity to continue to buy cheap Bitcoin below $70,000. Because once it takes off, I'm of the opinion we'll never see these prices again. I think that this is a market where I made a prediction the other day based off of a lot of analysis, I'm interested in what you guys think about this, but my assumption, I think 11 trillion comes into crypto as a whole. I think that Bitcoin will keep, and I think
11
this
trillion?
$11 trillion comes into crypto, the crypto market as a whole. And this, you might disagree with different levels, and I think this will be some good conversation. I probably can stop sharing my screen now because we're getting a conversation. I think there's gonna be 11 trillion that comes into crypto. I think Bitcoin will keep somewhere between 35 to 40% dominance. I have a feeling, Gary, you're gonna disagree with me on that one and think it's gonna be a little higher, but that's what conversation's for. And if all that math works out, based off of where the supply of Bitcoin will be, we should see anywhere between 190 to $230,000 per Bitcoin. And then I think the market, especially with the institutions getting involved, I'm not going to be surprised if the bear market at worst is a 50% pullback. I think we're done with the 70s, 80s, 90s. I think altcoins will still have some hefty pullbacks, but Bitcoin, I think there's just going to be too much smart money and long-term money in it to see much more than a 50% pullback, in which case, if I'm right about, let's just call the middle ground there 200, we're only pulling back to 100 worst case scenario during the next bear market. That's kind of my mathematical equation. So I'm thinking through that and I'm saying, man, I want to use as much time in the next couple of months as possible to get every piece of dry powder I can get to buy $60,000 Bitcoin, $70,000 Bitcoin, because once this puppy takes off, that's it. Then it's like my best buy after that might be 100,000.
Yeah, Sam, what do you think? Like,
When you were talking
you heard
about
it.
like 35 to 45% Bitcoin dominance, are you lumping the rest of that into just the crypto market as a whole? Or do you actually view that as, oh, like there might be an Ethereum ETF and you think Ethereum's going to take up a chunk of that? Like, and
Yeah.
what gave you that determination? Because I know the crypto market's expanding, but I also know products on Bitcoin are expanding too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just give me an idea of why you said 35 to 45.
Yeah. So first of all, 35, 45 there's historical precedence for that based off the Bitcoin dominance chart. Our top of the market back in 2017 went down to 35. The top of the market in 2021 went down to about 38, but we rounded up to 40. I think that's realistic. The reason I lean a little towards that 40% is because I think the market's more mature, and especially this cycle, Bitcoin is going to be, even though the gains, I don't think that people are going to make as much money investing in Bitcoin as you would, let's say you went after Cardano or you went after Solana, but the sureness of the money is more safe. And I think that Bitcoin will keep a higher dominance, closer to that 40%. Based off historical analysis, and then the rest of it, yeah. So the other 60% will be split between not only Ethereum but stable coins. They're probably going to include CBDCs in that. Even though we all hate CBDCs are something that's just going to come. And then other altcoins that have what I believe going to be pretty hefty utility. One of the altcoins I'm really, really big on is Chainlink. I think that Chainlink is going to accomplish and become what a lot of people thought XRP would do when it comes to the utilization of taking money back and forth between Web 2 and Web 3. I think Chainlink is going to be very, very big. But still, I mean, I don't think it's going to take a majority. I have Bitcoin sitting about 40% dominance, Ethereum probably sitting somewhere around 20. So just between king and queen of crypto, that's 60%. And then you have thousands of other tokens to split the other 40%. And that's kind of where I'm predicting right now. Now, I know, again,
I don't know if institutions will ever be in those altcoins though. And I think that would be the big difference this time is there's not going to be a Chainlink ETF. At least I don't think there will be, at least anytime soon. So doesn't that kind of affect some of what you're thinking? Because now we're dwarfing, you have an entire market that's going to continuously be retail as it's traditionally been. And then you're going to have some outliers like Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum that are going to have pension funds and BlackRock and Fidelity.
Yeah, so I still think that there's a lot of people worldwide that will translate into the altcoins. Also, we're watching altcoins be adopted for utilization purposes, not only in large institutions, but also in governments worldwide. I think Bitcoin is going to be what the world considers the ultimate storing of wealth. But then you get to the altcoins, and it's like that's where you're still going to have the very explosive bull markets and bear markets. People are really excited. Ultimately, historically, this is the first bull market that we're going to see heavy institutional adoption. Before this, you actually could make the argument in 2021, we saw heavy institutional suppression. but there's still millions and billions of people who will look at the altcoin sector and want to invest in over there. I just don't ever see Bitcoin being topped. Like when people try to say Ethereum will flip Bitcoin, or then they even start to like Solana's had a great run so far this bull market, and there's already people kind of saying like, oh, could Solana ever have a larger market cap than Bitcoin? The answer to that's no. But Solana can have a large market cap. I have Solana and Chainlink, namely, probably getting closer to this bull market, somewhere in the market cap range of $400 to $500 billion. And that's not ridiculous because that's where Ethereum was back in 2021, back when, again, we did not have a large institutional presence. If anything, we had institutions really flooding and suppressing not only Bitcoin, but the altcoin space in general. That's why I'm still really, really bullish on altcoins this cycle. I'm interested to see where regulation gets in the way of, we had some big updates from the SEC here recently, where they really have been pounding the drum to try to kill altcoins, but judges are now saying that the SEC has been abusing their power. That could be a
Lawyers had
big
to
releasing.
resign. Lawyers had to resign.
That could be a big win for altcoins. And again, I think altcoins are the playground. You're going to see a lot of volatility. You're going to see bigger gains and bigger losses in the altcoin space for the rest of mankind, because I think blockchain technology is here for the future. But Bitcoin is where, at the end of the day, if you're an investor, if you're wanting to build your wealth, you trade altcoins to buy more Satoshis. That's the play. You're not trading more altcoins to hold massive altcoin bags, but you realize, man, this altcoin over here, I can 20x. Bitcoin right now, if my prediction is right, let's say you buy today, we're talking about a 3 to 4x. That's good compared to maybe some other investments. But if I'm someone with $10,000 and I want to turn $10,000 into $100,000, $500,000, I'm not going to do that in Bitcoin in the next 4 years. I'm going to do that by calling the altcoins correctly, investing in the right ones. And then the whole play is, all right, I just turned my $1,000 or $10,000 into, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. Now I get to go over here and buy 2 Bitcoins. Whereas before I only had $10,000, I could only buy, a tenth of a Bitcoin, a fifth of a Bitcoin, like that, stuff like that. So that's why the altcoins are still valuable in my opinion, but ultimately it all is going to lead back to Bitcoin. It's all, the whole play is, how do I get more Satoshis in my wallet?
Tim, let me challenge your thought process on that comment about the size of the token market and the dominance. Do you actually know 2 or 3 human beings with a social security number that you've actually looked in their eyeballs who have run this strategy of buying Solana, multiplying their capital, and then moving it over to Bitcoin?
Oh, I know myself.
Okay. Who besides you?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can name any. I don't know if I know any big name like billionaires, trillionaires. I know that's a common play for a lot of smaller investors in the space. So that's part of that's what we talk about investing, bros. That's the game plan.
So let me use an analogy, okay? Because I don't know anyone who said, look, I'm going to become a billionaire industry businessman, but I'm going to start by selling heroin. I'm going to move into the heroin and coke market. I'm going to collect a bunch of cash, and then I'm going to take that illegitimate cash and move it into my industry play, right? Or, hey, I want to marry the greatest woman on the planet, but in between me getting, a suit, I'm going to go hang out in the strip club and meet some chicks in the strip club. And then once I've done my deal with the strip club chick, I'll be able to then gravitate toward the princess. See, I'm not sure this, because I don't know any. I know one guy that's in your business who made a lot of money trading Solana, and it was at 12 cents or something. And then he converted it. Very mature guy. But I just don't meet any of these people that made a super amount of wealth doing this strategy of, taking a lot of risk. Because right now, if you would have deployed that, there's only a couple of coins that have actually done better than Bitcoin, right? You would have actually been better off buying MicroStrategy, far better off buying MicroStrategy, which isn't even a token. And it would have outperformed Solana and Bitcoin in the last 6 months, 2 years. So like I just want to get some reality on. I would love to interview 10 people that have done this strategy and actually make it work on a regular basis. I
Yeah.
don't think there are 10 people out there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. There are people out there. Again, there's people in our community that do that, but I think what you're kind of getting at is a good point that the majority of people who are hefty altcoin investors, their brain, it's hard to compute the switch, right? So that's why I tell everybody, and I actually made a big deal of this on the show the other day. Someone asked me like, how should I invest this? Should I sell this coin for this coin? Yada yada. I said, listen, before I answer anything about where you put money, the first question I have to ask you is, what is your plan? What is your long-term plan? When do you think the top of the bull market is? What do you want to take profit? Ultimately, you have to answer that question. And what I heavily recommend to our audience is the ultimate plan is stacking Satoshis. So I already have a plan, as I kind of referenced earlier, that I do have a heavy allotment in altcoins right now. But to me, I don't see my Solana bag or my Cardano bag or my Chainlink bag as the bag that I'm holding for the next 10, 15, 20 years. My bag that I'm holding for the next 10, 15, 20 years is my Bitcoin bag. To me, altcoins are a ends to the means of stacking more Satoshis. I could take my 10,000 right now. Let's say I had $10,000. I can take $10,000 right now and buy 1/6 of a Bitcoin, or I can move that money into altcoins that are going to have bigger gains. And then at the right opportune moment, now that I take that $10,000 and I turn that $10,000 into some tokens that, in my analysis, I believe will 20x or more. I'm going to turn that into, let's see if that was a $200,000. Well, by that time, Bitcoin hopefully is $200,000. Now I just turned $10,000 into one Bitcoin. The end goal, the plan the whole time was to get more Bitcoin. I'm
Yeah.
just using a more aggressive method than just buying Satoshis from US dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see, and I think that your thesis is consistent. I mean, I do like that you're being consistent. You think that Bitcoin dominance is going to be around low 40s. See, I think Bitcoin dominance, I'll really shock you of how different we are,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that I have to dislike you.
No.
I can have a disagreement on your thesis without and still
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for you. I don't know how Bitcoin doesn't reach up into the 70s over time.
Okay.
And it's for the very reason the money that is coming into this market. I actually agree with your August thesis. And I think the August thesis is more that the RIAs and the wirehouses, the large institutional grade, there's 10 RIAs that manage $45 trillion. 45 trillion, okay? 10 companies, they're the biggest RIAs. They will not be ready till Q4. Okay, they're still going through their marketing materials, their training. Then there's another, I think, 43,000 IRAs spread all over the place, small, large, and medium. They manage another 40-ish trillion. Those guys, in my opinion, are going to be the first movers, but they won't be moving really into this market until probably July, August. Doing the same type of paperwork, due diligence, check the boxes, do the education. TD Ameritrade just popped up what I think is one of the best advertisements for Bitcoin that's ever been shown. We have multiple companies now who are going to put professional marketing service together with a concentrated, concise, simple, and boring message. Very boring. It won't be about seed phrases and self-custody that's so confusing. It will be about get the client in, get them adopted, give them a little snort of this stuff, show them how cool it is, and then they will move into this rabbit hole and decide, hey, I want some in my wallet. I want maybe some elsewhere. I want to buy MicroStrategy. And then the big money comes in Q4. And I think that kind of goes with your August choppy chop along the way. Now, I think there's a lot of chop between 70 and 52, dude.
Yeah.
That's going to smoke a lot of people out.
I agree.
And I'd like to actually talk about that opportunity as a buying opportunity I'll show you guys what I'm doing, just setting bids up all in that, area and just say, hey, I got $1 million, dude. I'm going to set a bid at 59. I'm going to set a bid at 57. I'm going to set a bid at 55 and 52, and I'm going to go make a living. I'm not going to sit there and worry about, did it hit it? Did it hit it? Like,
Yeah.
who cares? It'll get there. We know Bitcoin does this, right? Um, so what do you think about that? I mean, could you see me being right here that the institutional money, to Sam's point, dude, institutional money is not going to buy H bar,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Or,
and
or or Richard Hart's program. I just don't see that happening.
I also think just people are lazy, and that's not a bad thing, but 9 to 5, who has time to watch charts? And I think when we're watching charts, that automatically puts us in this bubble of we're people who watch charts. Most people want to give their money away and have it managed by someone else. And I honestly think that's the majority of the population. So that means most people do not have the time or don't want to buy into an altcoin to maximize profits. Because what percentage of the population has the time to even watch that? I know I don't. And that's why, like, even though I've been in the space for so long, people are always asking me, what do you invest in? I'm like, I'm very boring because I know I'm a terrible trader. Because I know by the time it's pumped and it was the right time to buy or sell, I wasn't paying attention. Because I don't like watching the stuff. I don't need to watch the stuff. It's just not my priority. I only invest if I know, okay, this is a long-term thing. And that's me. I'm in the space, right? I own some altcoins. I own Bitcoin. So that's why, just from that personal experience, and just talking to people and knowing that people are lazy, I'm always thinking, okay, how much will the altcoin market actually have until there's institutional products? Because people aren't even going to want to custody their own Bitcoin keys. People would rather buy a synthetic Bitcoin product than have their own Bitcoin, and they're okay with that, right? And so that fact alone tells you, okay, so now we're moving beyond what this industry was originally about. And so I think you're going to have people, just average people, will be like, Bitcoin's all there is. It's going to make me money. That's what I'll take. And if there's nothing else, they're not going to go look any further.
Yeah. So here's where I'm kind of sitting with stuff that you talked about there, Gary and Sam. I agree. So I don't believe that a lot of institutions will get involved with multiple altcoins. I think that Ethereum is still interesting. Even when we talk about Solana, for example, I think that there are institutions. I'm not maybe talking about some of the top investors in the world, but there are companies, institutional companies, that will partner with Solana. And we have seen a lot of, big name companies partnering with a lot of
Oh,
altcoins.
they most certainly will, man. But
Yeah.
partnering, just for everyone to understand, when you partner with a financial firm, it's kind of a loosey-goosey deal. It's not like, hey, this is going to generate $1 billion and we guarantee it. It's literally, hey, this guy and that guy are working together, and if there's something there, each of us are on each other's website and we'll figure it out later. But it's not, we just won the, country of Germany's finance department to run tokens across that exchange for Mercedes-Benz. It's not that kind of a deal, right? It's a loosey-goosey relationship. And there will be institutional use for some of these things, but you're pre-selling it at a monster premium, assuming the utility is already valued. And that's like, it just seems like a lot of hope and promise.
Yeah.
Like a guy with $10 million is not going to go into H bar, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not gonna necessarily try to defend H bar as an individual coin necessarily. I think there's other ones I'm way more bullish on. My thought though, here's where I'll go with it. A lot of retail investors. This is where, if especially when you look at how the Bitcoin dominance chart works, where does the altcoin season come from? People talk about altcoin season when you're on a lot of crypto channels. People are always asking, when's altcoin season? When's altcoin season? And altcoins have had a great run up to this point. But when you look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, the Bitcoin dominance chart has been somewhat volatile, but it's been nothing but up since November of 2022, right? That's not altcoin season. We've seen this happen before as well. Altcoin season happens historically, first of all, somewhere around 220 to 240 days after the halving event. Well, what is Bitcoin usually doing 220, 240 days after having an event? It's exploding in price action, smashing new highs, going parabolic. And we see retail investors taking that profit and then heavily moving it over into altcoins. So whereas the institutions are going to stay heavily involved in Bitcoin, I believe that retail investors, that number is going to keep growing, and they move a lot of money into altcoins. And just so you guys know, the perspective of the price action is gone. In 2017, the total market cap, not including Bitcoin, was only at about $400 billion, right? So when you don't include Bitcoin, we had 400 billion. The total market cap, including Bitcoin, was sitting right below 800 billion. Then you fast forward to 2021, where total crypto market cap got to 3 trillion. So it about 3.6x. That's part of where I'm getting my 11 trillion total crypto market cap from, is that expectation we're at 3.6x again. But the total crypto market cap, not including Bitcoin, went from 400 billion in 2017 to 1.7 trillion dollars in 2021, and that was still an immature market. So my expectation, if Bitcoin keeps 40% of that 11 trillion, my thought here is that we're going to see altcoins get somewhere in that realm of $6 trillion. I think that's absolutely doable. And here's where, Gary, I actually agree with the concept of where you're coming from. I'm just going to say, if I live in reality, I know how greedy people work. You're sitting here saying, listen, am I going to watch other altcoins potentially make more money in a short term? Fine. I'm fine with that because I know Bitcoin is my big money maker long term. But that's not how most people think. Most people, if you're asking the everyday Joe, are going to say, all right, I have $1,000 to invest. Should I invest in Bitcoin and maybe double my money, or invest in Ethereum and triple my money, or invest in Solana and 10x my money? Most people chase that short-term gratification and they look for the more risky asset, which is why what I said earlier, I think Bitcoin worst case scenario corrects 50%. Whereas I still think alts correct 90 to 80% in the next bear market. But there is going to be a period of time, I believe, starting sometime in December of 2024 into early January. What's going to happen is exactly what it's going to be good for you, Gary, but it's also going to be good for like BlackRock and others. When these shiny coins, when these shiny altcoins start to take off, and I'm not wanting to insult any individual, but let's just call it what it is. Dumb retail investors chase the shiny thing. They're going to take their profits from Bitcoin. They're going to move them into something they perceive will make them more money. BlackRock will be able to gobble up a lot of Bitcoin and keep that wealth. That's just how they're going to work. But we will see a short season where the altcoins have more money coming in per market cap when they're all combined than Bitcoin. This is what we've seen historically. And what it is, it's just a fantastic opportunity for BlackRock and for long-term Bitcoin enthusiasts to gobble up all of this Bitcoin that all the dumb retail investors want to sell. This is just market psychology of how the retail investors work. Now, you guys are sitting here saying, all right, I'm just going to be the smart long-term play. I'm not going to worry about flashes in the pan because I see the future and Bitcoin is the way to go. Traders like myself, I'm a trader. That's why I study the charts. I'm going to say, you know what? Do I believe in Bitcoin more than these altcoins long-term? Absolutely. But will I take advantage of some charts and some dumb money moving it around and then be able to sell my altcoins at the top and turn them back into Bitcoin where the even dumber retail investors are buying in at those tops? That's my way to make wealth. That's the mindset of traders. Ultimately, it's sad, but for one person to win in trading, someone else has to lose. For me to make an awesome sell at the top of a market, there's got to be some sucker who buys it. And unfortunately, our world is not getting smarter. We're increasing in the dumb money category. And I believe there's still a lot of dumb money to be played in crypto. And dumb money is what's going to cause altcoins to go parabolic for a season. And then even more dumb people come in, become exit liquidity, and all the smart money transitions back into Bitcoin.
So you're betting on stupidity and I'm betting on laziness.
Yes.
What a great position to be in.
and I'm betting on this. There are 62 millionaires on the planet out of 8 billion.
Yeah.
It's less than 1%. There's 400,000 ultra wealthy families, which I actually think that everyone should be looking to become one of the ultra wealthy. If 30 million is the number, I'm starting to get to a point where, whoa, 10 or 15 million, like if you're 30, 10 or 15 million needs to be invested really carefully for you to make it another 70 years. I
Mhm.
know that's really terrifying, but in that there's only 62 millionaires out of 8 billion, the retailers, I don't follow the retailers, dude. It's the dumbest money on the planet. So like the strategy, again, would love to do a show with you. We'll do it. We'll open it up for 3 or 4 hours, and we'll let all the big swinging dicks that have made a bunch of money come and tell us. But I bet we can't find 12 people, dude.
Mm.
I bet we can't find 12 people who have made $3 million, 300 grand trading alts over Bitcoin. Because you're introducing a level of complexity now. One, you're basically saying that you're going to be a great trader. Okay. I've been trading since I was 20 years old. I know 4 great traders. Okay. All 4 of us lost hundreds of millions of dollars at times. Like it wasn't a little bit of money. It was like if you're in this game, you are going to crash your Ferrari if you're racing at 300 miles an hour, right? Sooner or later, there's going to be a driver out there that throws something on the racetrack.
Mhm.
So, and dude, the money we've never seen this money come in. Why you guys wouldn't want to just pack up right next to some sovereign, dude? Like just get in his wake, in his draft,
Mhm.
and let Bitcoin do the deal. Um, and again, for just transparency, I own some of these alts. Okay, I own Solana at $92.
Mhm.
I'm up $350,000 on Solana. I still don't think it's the right trade.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I own Dogecoin. It's not for the token though.
Yeah.
I was looking to buy an option on Elon Musk, a call option, a long dated Doge is. I bought Doge for 6 cents as a call option on. I got 20 grand into Elon might turn X into something awesome. To me, that's a really cool way of going. Elon Musk call option, right? And I think that's the way this 2 or 3 or 4% of the world's going to think. They're not going to think with is X going to turn into a carnival where there's payments?
Mhm.
I think it possibly could just because he's got a hard on for institutional business. But if it was priced at $3, I wouldn't have bought it.
Mhm.
Right. If it was, I mean, Solana is at what right now? $70 billion market cap. Man, that's a lot of money, bro. 70 billion. Okay. That's a big, big number. Again, I own some of it.
Mhm.
Um, and I play around with some of it to learn, but I do not expect these to outperform Bitcoin. Maybe for short, very short windows of time, but I'm comparing. I'll go back to my stripper thing, not to say that strippers aren't good people, okay? But like if I'm looking for a wife for 30 years, I'm probably not going to find her in that place,
Oh,
right? It's a
absolutely. Yeah.
very, very, very different investment thesis.
Yeah. No, again, I appreciate that analogy. I don't know if I quite think of the analogy the same way as say you're looking for a wife and you start with a stripper. I do though. It's one of those things I would say if I want to walk away and be not heavily focused. I mean, I have a nice advantage here. I have a full-time job where I get to watch charts all day.
There you go.
I get to pay attention to news. I would say I think um and we've said this to our audience as well. If you want to live a stress-free life and not have to watch charts and stay updated on the news, yeah, Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the only coin that I'm comfortable purchasing and walking away for months, if not years, and feeling confident about what my investment looks like. But if I can stay around and watch the markets and study the history and look at how things go, it's one of those things like it is a bet. Like it's a bet, but I think if you know how to bet it correctly and you know how history works and you know psychology, how investors work, I feel confident. I'll say I feel confident in my strategy with the end goal being my end goal is not to make $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. I told people, and I'm not going to get to accomplish it in this cycle. My ultimate goal is I want 10 Bitcoin. I want to get 10 Bitcoin. And
There
then
you go.
once I
Yeah.
hit 10 Bitcoin, Now, how do I get to 20? But my goal right now is 10 Bitcoin. But I know it's going to be really hard to do with just taking my US dollars I'm earning at my 9 to 5 and buying Bitcoin. That's going to take a very long time to do it. But because I have the advantage of being able to watch charts and look at news, I can take my US dollars, put them into more volatile assets at the correct times, and then take them out of those volatile assets at the correct times to buy more Bitcoin, which I have no plan on selling. And that is a strategy that is not for everybody, but I do think is a winning strategy. And I think it'd be interesting to see this cycle how many people are able to use, because I think there's a decent amount of people with that thought process, that strategy. There's some that don't. There are people who are going to ride there, and I see this every day. I see people ride the meme coin craze, for example. I have friends who have made 30x already in meme coin investments, right? I'm not a meme coin investor, and I'll tell you why. Because meme coins, they are the most unpredictable things whatsoever. If I ever did buy one, the minute I'd be up 5x, I would take my money out of there because I'm not going to risk it. That's the thought that a lot of people need to get when you invest in altcoins. If people are investing in altcoins and they're thinking, I'm going to hold Cardano for the next 20 years, I'm going to hold Solana for the next 20 years, uh, I think that could be a mistake. I think that holding altcoins long term, other than the bull market, is a mistake. Bitcoin, on the other hand, no, I think that's the whole game. The whole game is how many Satoshis can I get long term? And I think you've done this math before. I think almost every major crypto channel has done this math. Hey guys, there's only 21 million Bitcoins in existence, and Michael Saylor has already taken a lot of them. Satoshi has a lot of them. There's a lot of them that will never ever see the light of day ever again because they've been lost in wallets. When we really think about it, I heard an analogy the other day that right now there's probably actually only about 5 million up for grabs. There's going to be a heavy competition to get those 5 million. If you can get even half of one, you're going to do well. If you can get one, you're doing fantastic. If you can get 10, you'll be the top echelon out there. And then you have your Michael Saylors and probably your Gary Cardones that already have like 100 of them or so. But that's the whole thing. It's a race to get Satoshis. And the good news is we're early to the race, but our time is running out.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of real estate here, like we're going to look back and go, whoa, $70,000 to buy into a franchise with no maintenance costs, no property costs, no taxes, no human error. This is a franchise, dude. Everybody I know, I own my own business. Well, you weren't built to own your own business or run it, right? You just don't have any core. You should be a painter, right? I mean, there's some people most people are not built to own a company because they don't have good management skills. They don't have really good communication skills. They can't set a vision. They don't understand budgets. They don't understand time value. Bitcoin removes all of that. Like I can literally just buy $7,000 worth of Bitcoin and go, well, I just bought a franchise, man. You know what it costs to own a Popeye's fried chicken franchise?
No idea.
It's $50,000 for the down payment and then about $2.5 million. Okay. Whoa. And you have to, you have a boss now. You have people that have to show up, snotty little kids that they're spitting in the coffee.
Yeah.
They got attitudes, you get robbed. You got to have payments, then you get to pay Visa 3%. If you look at private equity, like owning your own business, most businesses don't generate income for the owner. This is all these real estate guys we saw yesterday, Sam. Like, I need to generate income. Really, why? Because you pay 30% on your tax. Like, I build businesses all the time. I don't make money for 4 years, and then somebody pays me a shitload of money to sell that company. This is exactly like Bitcoin. The only difference, it's a franchise of a monopoly, and it has no monopoly risk whatsoever. And let me tell you something. I'm, in my 60s. Basic rule is if you can own or rent or partner with a monopoly, you do it at any cost. Any cost, you do it. If you can partner or own a monopoly that has no regulatory risk, you cut your arm off for that, dude. Because it's tell me a monopoly that hasn't gotten this right. Google, Facebook, okay? Visa makes a 51% net operating margin, and they're a 50-year-old company. Name me a 50-year-old company, okay, that makes a 51% net operating margin, and they're not even global. I mean, they pretend to be global, but they're not. MasterCard makes a 46% net operating margin. You know what Exxon makes? 8 to 11%, man. So you got a credit card company that gets a bunch of credit cards in people's pockets, 7 of them to be exact. Took them 50 years for adoption to occur. This is why I've gotten so upset with the Bitcoin community, because I'm like, you guys have no clue what real adoption is, dude. Real adoption is millions and millions and millions of people. They do 1,765 transactions a second. Okay. Now, the lie is all those transactions settle. No, there's 6 months to settle. And then we got people over here going, hey, we're going to be able to do, 5 transactions a second anytime in the near future with XYZ software. Well, big deal, dude. Like, it's still not mainstream global. I don't know. It just seems to me like I don't know why I take all that other risk, man. If Vitalik gets killed on his 7X airplane, Ethereum is going to fall in price. I mean, everybody says, no, nothing would happen. They have a big team. Dude, come on. If the guy falls out of the air, he clearly is going to create some kind of problem in management. If he isn't, then why hasn't he outsourced all the management to other people? To me, it's just, I've yet to find anyone that can walk me off this cliff that Bitcoin isn't the greatest thing since sliced cheese. And we're treating it like, okay, let me go, to me, hey, let me go play around with this hooker, a $300 hooker, and like, I'll stop seeing her when I meet the princess. See, the problem is, while I'm banging the $300 hooker, maybe I missed the opportunity to be in the elevator to meet that princess, because I can't, like, you're looking at these charts every day. You're getting paid fiat. Dude, I know people that are watching you that are not working, and they're trying to make $30 on their little $500 position. That is not trading. Okay. You might as well go down to the casino and play poker for 6 hours a day and grab $200 from a guy like me once a day. You'll make more money, man. Right? Because you're not going to be able to be parasitic on these markets. These markets are getting ready to have professional players. Like you guys probably go, wow, he's got $500,000 in profit in Dogecoin. Yeah, I bought it 6 months ago. So my position was like 200. Like, think about that. Like, these people, and I'm not a big player. People walk in a couple million. I have a client through Node 40. He does 1 billion transactions a year, dude. Just in Bitcoin. 1 billion.
Wow.
Now, do you think he knows more than you and I? Most certainly. You know what he said? As soon as the ETFs got launched, I'm out, dude. I'm out. And I said, why? Every professional trader on the planet is going to be playing this game, dude. My edge is gone. That's a professional throwing $1 billion around. He spent $200 million in fees with Coinbase. I mean, he's got everybody on speed dial. And you and I are trying to trade a little, Richard Hart coin. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody. They're all, for me, like let's say that you have an employee, Tim, and every lunchtime he leaves at lunch, he gets a 30-minute lunch, but he always takes 45 minutes. The other 15 minutes a day, he goes to the 7-Eleven across the street and buys a $17 lottery ticket. Now, does he need to be disciplined, fired, or do you give him a raise? Because I would say that he's cheating on you, walking across the street to buy a token for $17. A token, dude, piece of fucking shit, right? It's a token, and right. It's run by the U.S. government, right? Now, are you going to keep paying him? Is he as good of an employee as the guy that got back on lunchtime and he's focused getting a meeting with Sam or Gary Cardone so you can have another interview? See, this is where we're not really talking about the exchange. You work and make a living, and I just think some of these people ought to. I got some windows that need to be cleaned, dude. I'm going to pay somebody to clean them. Yeah. I promise you I am, right? There's so many jobs out there And the reason I'm going on and on about this, you are so right, dude. You're like, hey, I need to get to 10 Bitcoin. Okay, totally, dude. That's an awesome goal. Okay. These people should be thinking, how do I get to 1 Bitcoin? And I don't know anybody. I could make 70 grand this weekend. If you stuck a gun to my face, said, bro, you have to bring in 70 grand by Sunday, I'm pretty sure you could do it. Right? If somebody stuck a gun to your wife's face, said, hey, go make 70 grand,
Yeah.
you would make 70 grand. Don't tell me that's not possible.
Right.
Right? But I
Yeah.
can't do that if I'm looking at a chart 8 hours a day for
Yeah.
$500 spent.
It actually is something that I tweeted something out, not quite exactly what you're saying right there, but I think that it's pretty dumb the amount of people who also want to find a way to use crypto, whether they're investing in altcoins or Bitcoin, and then quit their jobs, retire, and pretty much go on the golf course. I'm like, no, like use financial freedom to get a job that actually you enjoy doing. But until you can get a job you enjoy doing, do the job you don't want to do. It's an investment into your future. I think you're absolutely right. Uh, Bust your butt, eat bologna for lunch, invest as much as you can into something that's going to build you wealth long term, and then use that financial wealth to find a job that does not tax you and pull away from you, but rather makes you excited. But not doing anything and going on the golf course is the wrong move altogether. We were made to work. I'm a big believer that humans are made to work. Scientifically, you watch people that retire, whether they're 60 when they retire, whether they're 40, their mental game starts going downhill if you don't have a challenge each and every single day in your life to push
Totally.
forward. So
Totally.
it's not even just about building wealth. It's about continuing to build yourself as a human.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, hey, why do you keep doing this? I'm like, I retired at 40. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. And like I love being with a bunch of young people, man. Why wouldn't I? You guys are always challenging me, and I probably have a little bit of value to add to you guys. So it's a win-win, but playing the golf game, not my idea of fun. Hey, why don't we get through a few of these questions before we come to a close? I never can manage my time on these shows. Let's see. We got KG. KG, you owe me 1/10 of a Bitcoin because you called me good stuff, Grant. I have a rule. If you call me Grant, confuse me with Grant, talk to me like I'm Grant. It costs you a tenth of a Bitcoin or I block you. Just kidding. Stick to blue chips, or Daniel J says, stick to blue chips. Let's see what we got. Somebody saying not true. Stephen Diaz says, I'll be accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment in the near future and continue to stack. What is Simon? Simon said the future requires multiple blockchains for all of this to work. Maybe. We don't have multiples today, so I'm not sure.
The problem, and that's where, like, Simon, I understand what he's saying, but are we confident we know which blockchains will work? Like, I'm confident that there will be altcoins in the future. What I'm questioning is which ones. Will Ethereum stay queen? Will something top it? Will Solana continue this momentum, or will all of the hacks and all of the outages be the demise? Is Cardano, as decentralized it is there going to be enough adoption for it to be there? Like, I like a lot of altcoins and what they build, but I am not confident in their long-term existence anywhere near as much as I'm confident in Bitcoin being the ultimate storage of wealth. That's going to be the issue with the future. It's hard to know which blockchain will be the best. There's a chance the best blockchain out there is something that hasn't even been built yet, and we don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, guys, a few of you guys are making comments about, hey, this guy's talking about too big a volume. Um, he's talking in the millions. I only have thousands. It's just zeros, first off. Zeros. You guys are measuring this. It's not my fault that you focused on thousands and I focused on millions. They're just zeros. If you take nothing else from the show, these are zeros. You and your parents decided what zeros were important and what zeros weren't. It's not my fault. Just add 3 zeros, man. You're there. It's just a vision. John Gammon, Gary is a classy dude. Always pleasure listening to him. I always read one of those that say really nice things about me, of course. We pass on it. Sam, don't read that one, Sam. That one's not positive. What Tim, what do you think we see into May? Could you see us, because I literally have bids sitting at between 59 down to 52. Do you see those getting tagged? And what would drive, you know, vol from 65, 66, 67 down to a 55, $10,000 move, 20% move, which
Yeah.
we've seen one so far, right? This month.
Yeah. Ultimately, I we're gonna I tell people to get ready for the FUD and FOMO monster to come out. One day you'll think that the sky is falling. The next day they're gonna be talking about Bitcoin going to new all-time highs. It's just gonna go back and forth. I don't know, Gary, if you're with the trading you've done, if you ever came across the theories of like Wyckoff, which I think a lot of trading came from a lot of things that Richard Wyckoff created, but he talks pretty heavily about these seasons of accumulation, and they print the FOMO stories at the very tops, and they convince the dumb investor to buy and then take the exit liquidity. And then they come back down. And then as you're getting close to support level, they'll post a story that's doom and gloom and FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And they'll convince you to sell your investment back to the smart money, and then they'll buy and go back up. 52 is an interesting one. I don't have 52 on my chart. I have 55. And if 55 is lost, I think there's a decent chance that 48 is retouched. And ultimately, what's going to happen, I could tell you right now, it's probably going to have something to do with the war, even though I think that that's more of a smoke and mirror, more of an excuse potentially for the BlackRocks and others to take some profit up here at 60 and buy more in at 55, or dare I say down to 48. But ultimately, it's just going to be smoke and mirrors, sideways manipulation to shake out weak hands. I call it like the schoolyard bully. He's going to grab
Yeah.
the little kid. He's going to shake him for all of his lunch money. And that's why, the concept of being a diamond hand holder, just I would tell people, just hold through all this. Just don't fall for buy. When you see a low price, if you see some red candles, buy as best you can. Buy the red candles. When you see a bunch of green candles, be happy about them, but don't do anything. Don't sell them. Just hold on. And the big green candles are coming later this year.
Now, would you suggest that people sit there and watch the micro movements, or they just do what I've done, which is set some numbers out there that you're comfortable with, and then go have an interview with a guy like you, build your business?
I think actually it really depends on the strength of your mental game. One of the smartest investments I ever heard when I first got into Bitcoin was pretend you're taking this money and putting it in a trash can in your backyard and setting it on fire. You're never going to see it again. He said, like, invest and then do not check your portfolio for 1 month. Why? Because if you check your portfolio and it goes down a little bit, and this is what my wife did. My wife did not listen. She checked 2 days later, and 2 days after our first investment, it was in the red. She's like, "Oh no, did we make a mistake?" Don't do that. Walk away. If you don't have the mental fortitude to be in loss and be okay with it, you need to just walk away from the charts. However, if you can get to a place where you can see yourself in the red, but be mentally okay with it, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about how markets move, and you prepare yourself in the future for creating better buying opportunities. But if the other thing would be, that's if you want to get into the trading game as a whole. I think Gary's laid out some great things here. Trading is not for everybody. If you have a busy life, if you have a busy job, if you have spent a lot of time with your family, it doesn't fill you up. Like, I like looking at charts. I actually enjoy trading. I enjoy doing this. If it doesn't fill you up with joy and add to your life, you probably should be the DCA investor who either you stick to a schedule of time of day or week, or like Gary says, you take one afternoon, you look at the charts, you choose some spots, you put your buy-in orders, and then you leave and you go work your job that fills you up and you love doing. Go spend time with your family. Not every investor is the same type of investor. I think you learn a lot by staying involved day in and day out. But if that takes from you and drains you or drives you crazy, don't do it. That's not the right move for you.
Yeah, yeah. Very few people that I've met in my life are set up to do this as a profession.
Yeah.
It is a profession. The reason I use like NASCAR drivers and prostitutes and then princes, I'm trying to draw the analogy between, the hours it takes to be a NASCAR driver, staggering. And the same for trading. The great traders are 14-hour a day traders, man, plus. Sam, what do you think? Am I talking shit? Is Tim
No,
talking?
I think it works, but
Having double
I
win?
have to hop off here. I don't want to interrupt you guys talking so you can continue to go, but I got a meeting that I got to drive to at 1. But I think in short, I think kind of the big message is what we kind of repeated earlier back, and that I feel like you guys both keep saying is if you can't watch and be in it all the time, just buy Bitcoin because you have the right mindset. If you're able, listen, if you're able to go into altcoins and pump a fat bag and buy more Bitcoin because of it, awesome. Most people can't do that. Most people won't do that. Most people shouldn't do that. I can't do that. I know I can't do that. I love the strategy of a low stress life, of investing in something that I know will work, that I know will increase in adoption. And I sometimes get greedy and stupid, and then I regret it every time, just because I know. So that's been the hardest part is knowing when I see my friends 10x, I'm like, man, I could have done that. No, I couldn't have
Yeah.
because
Right.
I'm not my
Right.
friends. And just that self-understanding is what works.
Yeah. Hey, guys, listen, thank you very much for being here to the audience. Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate you coming in. Would love to have you again if you're ever down in
Absolutely.
Florida. Would love to have lunch with you, dinner,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Closing comments. And then, Sam, I know you got to run. We'll close this right after Tim's comments.
Yeah, closing comments. I would say, first of all, Gary, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. And I do. I want to take you up on lunch, dinner. I could probably learn in 10 minutes from you a lot more than it takes me hours of my own research to do. And again, I hope that other people are sitting in a similar boat. I don't profess to be some guru or some brilliant person. I am a normal guy who looks at the world around me and says, this sucks, and we have an opportunity to change that. And I think Bitcoin is that answer. It all boils back to stacking sats one way or another. There's many roads to that one area, that one target, but ultimately people should get to that one target. How do we stack sats? So thank you, Gary, for having me. Sam, pleasure to see you again. Can't wait to see you again soon. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Tim. And I love your goal, dude. 10 Bitcoin. Okay. I want you to call me when you hit that number.
Yeah.
I'll call you when I hit my number too. I think I'm a little bit further away from giving you a call than you are from giving me one. So, but I love that goal, 10 Bitcoin. Hey guys, get off zero, buy some Bitcoin. Once you're like you got Bitcoin flowing out of your ears and your ass, you can then go buy some of this other stuff or go to 7-Eleven and buy a lottery ticket. Love you guys. Have a great week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gary.